So you've seen the punks headlines and you think to yourself, I fancy a piece of that. But then you realize they're extremely expensive. But then you see ducks and dogs and apes and lizards and boom, the rabbit hole opens up and things get very confusing. But fear not, while everyone was crying about the NFT bear market, this little piggy went to market. And there's a ton of important lessons I've picked up that I will share with you in this video. So many that we're actually gonna have to split it into two parts going out this week and next. We're gonna look at how to research collectibles, how to navigate drops, how to avoid getting scammed, where to find your information, what types of games can be played with collectibles, and different ways to find a decent exit if you are in need of liquidity. Now, the lessons here can be applied to any PFP collectible, but I'm gonna be using Sup Ducks as a case study with some color provided by Top Dog Beach Club because those are the projects I know best. Well, I hope you are settled in and very comfortable because there's a lot to learn here and it's gonna take us some time to get through it. That's why we split the video into two parts, but let's get into it. So the first thing we're gonna look at is why would you want to own one of these things over, let's say, some shitcoins. There are plenty of shitcoins in the market. They are easy to trade. They're easy to buy and sell. You can get in and out of positions really quickly. NFTs, no, they're hard things to own. They're fun things to own, but they are hard to own. So you really need to kind of wrap your head around exactly what you're getting into and not expect these to be easy flipping assets the way perhaps crypto Twitter would have you believe that they are. Because for the most part, once you buy one of these things, you can't immediately sell it. It's very difficult to flip them. And those who do, well, good luck to them, they can. But for most of us, not so easy. So Bored Apes really changed the game here because what they defined their NFT platform was as a club. And when you look at the club, I mean, it doesn't look like that much. I remember seeing this thing and thinking, so what? So we can go in to the Bored Ape Yacht Club right now and see what's there. And it's not that much. They have roadmap activations, they have the bathroom, and well, great. Now, the thing about the Bored Ape Yacht Club is this website is only really the tip of the iceberg. And we are starting to see more and more interesting things. So if I go and look at the Bored Ape Twitter account, they literally just announced their Bored Ape floating casino, the grand opening of the Riverboat Casino in Decentralized. This is the first proper instance of Bored Apes really spreading out into the metaverse and building out this sense of a club, this sense of what they're about in a world which isn't their own Discord channel. That's pretty cool. So there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff going on there. If you own an ape, you're part of this. And I think that is, or at least it was, the grand promise of owning one of these assets. Now, as we know now, people use their punks as their avatars. People use their apes as their avatars. And as these things gain in value and gain in significance, having one, owning it, making it your avatar becomes more and more of a flex because these things, I mean, they are not cheap. They are not cheap at all. I think the base price of Bored Ape now is around $20,000. So $20,000 is your membership fee to the Bored Ape Yacht Club. That's significant. That's significant. If you're a member of Soho House, it won't cost you that much. That's for sure. So yeah, it's got to be worth it, right? It's got to be a thing that has some meaning to you. Well, of course, you know, you can sell your membership, you can sell your ape, and as the floor price rises, that's exciting. Also, you know, these communities are kind of fun. There are so many different offshoots now going on, and there's so many different clusters of people building stuff, creating stuff. That's another reason why you might get excited about this, because you might have always wanted to create a piece of merchandise, like a clothing brand, or you might have wanted to just do something wild, like, you know, a limited edition tequila brand. But you know, you can because you have an audience built in, a consumer base built in that will probably buy this thing because it's the Bored Ape brand, and you can use your ape as the figurehead of it, whatever you want to do. That's entirely your right. So you get these IP rights and privileges over the asset that you own. And we don't really know how much that could be worth in the future, but I'm imagining not too far from now, we will start to see some of these characters become celebrities in their own right, distinct and separate from the tribes in which they are based. We tend to think of these things as defined by their rarity, the value defined by their rarity. But increasingly, what I think we will see is the expression of these PFPs through the owners become much more valuable in its entrepreneurial capacity than just the pure base intrinsic rarity value of the thing in and of itself. Maybe, maybe not. That's my thesis. As these things start to get into the hands of people who really know what to do with them and are creative or just at the right point in their lives to do that with them, they will flourish in that way. The other thing is, what Bored Ape also did, they gave away dogs. They gave them away. So every Bored Ape owner could claim a dog. And they said it can get lonely in the swamp sometimes. That's why every ape should have a four-legged companion. We're offering up a dog for adoption to every single member of the BAYC for free. You got a companion. So, I mean, this is wild. It reminds me a little bit of Bitcoin Cash. Every Bitcoin holder got Bitcoin Cash. Bitcoin Cash then ended up being worth a great deal, but that was free money. Free money. Now, obviously, you would think this is just basically an airdrop, that if you own an ape, you get airdrop something, that the prices of apes would go down. And they did a little bit, but not really. What actually happened was the Kennel Club, the dogs, gained in value. Now, the floor price, which is the lowest sell on OpenSea for one of these doggies, is 1.4, nearly 1.5 ETH. That's not nothing. That's like $4,000. Well, no, a little bit less, 3.5 grand for the base one. So the other one, I mean, these are things that have value, and people will airdrop us tons of these who had a lot of apes. I mean, that was tons of money that was then sloshing around the ecosystem, and people were buying these because they were speculating on the value of these dogs. Now, that has set the tone for every other project that is launching a PFP collectible set to also do companions. So we're seeing the Wicked Craniums doing the Wicked Stallions. We've seen bears from the Bulls on the Block. It's now expected. So when you buy one of these things, you can expect to see a secondary item, some kind of airdrop, some kind of additional asset that's being given to you as a result of owning these things. Interestingly enough, we also got sent a basketball NFT by the Bored Ape Yacht Club for owning a doggy. I don't think that was that popular because people were like, I don't really need a basketball. But the point is, over time, these things will add up and become a collection, and they have value above and beyond. You do not get that with shitcoins. You just don't. So that's another reason to be excited about this. The other thing is, what we're building here is we're building a sense of identity, we're building a sense of community, we're building a valuable IP. And if you're a creator, that's an incredible place to be. But also, you know, if you build stuff, these communities will reward you for it. So that's a great reason to start exploring these communities and get into it. So that really begs the question, what type of investor are you? And you have to be really honest here, because most of us, when we enter into this space, are not philosophical about it. We are financially motivated, let's be honest. And so when you see something like an ape going up in price, you want a piece of that action. So you might then look at some of the cheaper options out there and think, well, if apes did X, then this can do Y. And you're probably right, because that's the way this marketplace works. Everyone copies everyone else. Money flows from one asset to another, and then everything goes up until it all explodes and we have a massive bear market. Sweet. So ask yourself, what kind of investor are you? Are you a flipper? Are you someone who's looking to exploit information asymmetry to grab something cheap and sell it to an unsophisticated or a FOMO buyer at a price that they shouldn't have paid for it? That's a valid strategy, and it can work for some people. It's not how I do it, but there you go. Are you a long bagger? Are you somebody who just wants to buy a piece of something for the exposure? Let's say you want to buy 2 of each of them and then just sit on them and do nothing because, you capture a piece of the entire market, and then some of them do great, some of them don't do so great, but at least you're diversified and you have some good exposure. That's also valid. Perhaps you're a builder. Perhaps you're looking for a place to create something and looking for like-minded people. What I'm seeing, for instance, in the Top Dog Beach Club community, builders. Builders are setting up shop there because they're finding like-minded people who are not about trading, who are not about fast flips. They just want to make stuff. That's extremely healthy. Same thing happened in Bored Apes. We'll come on to why that happened. But you also might be somebody who's looking to start creating an anonymous crypto identity with which to do business. And we're starting to see this more and more. People are doing task-based assignments for cryptocurrency, and their ape or their digital personality will gain value as they gain reputational value throughout the space by contributing to DAOs, contributing to communities. And how people perceive you is directly influenced by how they see you. It's just the way it is. So these avatars become so much more than just a JPEG. It becomes a representation of a bunch of philosophical values, your personality. I changed mine yesterday from my normal, I had a banana hitting my face. It was me, and it represented, I guess, the transition from where I had been in my filmmaking career to embracing this crypto narrative, this crypto specific thing that I do now. But I changed to a Sup Duck because this Sup Duck just perfectly represented how I feel about this space and how I feel about the work that I do. So I changed it. And now I look at them like, yeah, that was totally me. Why didn't I do this sooner? So that's also, a totally valid reason to buy them. And then finally, you could be a genuine collector. Like, people collect Pokemon cards obsessively. And the collection, that constant hunt for that one valuable item, finding it on the market, getting the good price, and then slowly building out a collection of value, that still has meaning for people. And it's interesting that with NFTs and digital assets, we're reawakening the collector instinct in people who might have previously lost it. I used to collect DVDs, I used to collect films, they meant something to me. I don't anymore. I collect these things. And across the different PFPs that I'm active in, some I'm really, honestly, I'm using all of these different strategies simultaneously. Like with Hashmarks, for instance, I'm a long bagger. With a lot of these PFPs, I'm a long bagger, but with Sup Ducks, I'm really, building into a personality and a vibe because I like the community. But Top Dogs, similar kind of thing. I'm trying to be a builder. So I'm cutting across all of these different ones, but it's a place where you can really get active and really be busy. So, maybe, as with Hashmarks, for instance, I just love the art. Maybe you just love owning one of these things. And not all of them are beautiful, and not all of them have that quality that makes you go, ugh. But one of the reasons people fell in love with Bored Apes is because the art was rich and expressive, and it captured this little kind of perfect nugget of what it meant to be a crypto investor in the early part of this year. So I guess that's the thing to ask yourself. And then finally, you can ask yourself whether you have a thesis about this space. So a valid thesis right now would be Gary Vee, 3 Hours Capital, buying up punks. This idea of punks, digital collectibles, these little avatar icons, valid investment thesis. So therefore, you're building an investment thesis across this space. And we've seen so-called fine art or blue chip NFT art, like Avid Lions, like Art Blocks, picking up pace. You could look at Hashmarks and say their artistic value elevates them above all the other ones in the space. Those are the ones to buy. If I look at the market today, that's exactly what I see happening. So you can start to pick up these narrative thoughts. Also, similar kind of thing. Punks, think of them like Bitcoin. It's, the top of the top of the top, only the most wealthy can afford them. And it becomes this game of, the top. But Bored Apes are much more like Ethereum. It's much more about a building community. It's much more about spreading out rather than being elitist. So you pick up apes, but maybe you can't afford it. So you start to track down. Look at something like Meebits. Meebits feels like EOS to me. It's a massive raise when they sold them. And so you could say that they are also a blue chip because they come from Lava Labs. And therefore, if punks do well, Meebits should do well as well. Those are just different ways to look at the market and have a thesis. So where on earth do you start? First thing about crypto is information asymmetry. Got to wrap your head around that. Almost 100% of the time, you don't know enough. And if you do think you know enough, you are almost certainly wrong. And so trying to parse out where you get your information from, who you listen to, what you decide to listen to from them, because they may not always be right, so important. I can't tell you how to do that. What I can tell you is how I do it. I don't look at Twitter at all. Don't trust it, don't believe it. It's just not a place I look to for high quality information. I tend to find anyone who's broadcasting on Twitter has an agenda, could be a perfectly good agenda, but I'm not interested. Telegram used to be a place I used to track for information. There are a few good Telegram groups. I use NFT Avenue, which is my friend Ivan's group. He runs Lobsters, but also set up an NFT group called NFT Avenue. There are some good people in there, and there's some pretty good conversations. So there's the likes of Scott, Vasa from GenieSwap, Bruno from Remark is in there. So there's some pretty decent high-level conversation. But the place I go for all my information now, Discord. Discord. And I know a lot of people who don't like Discord and they find it messy and they find it difficult to track, but if you're gonna be successful in the NFT PFP space, you need to understand Discord, you need to have your Discord game locked down. So when we think about the secondary items, we're thinking about the metaverse, and I just noticed today the Doge Pound, whose token has been doing pretty well, have got some pretty awesome metaverse assets, so you can turn a 2D Doge NFT into a 3D one, and here's their Doge Pound spacesuit. Also, if you own a Meebit, you can go to the Meebit's website on Lava Labs and download Vox files, which you can then turn into OBJs, and you can 3D print them, or you can do what I did and you can turn them into an avatar for Somnium or anything like that. So there's a lot of flexibility. People are expecting those files now. It's just become de rigueur. But these are the kind of things you should expect with your NFT. And I think as things like the Sandbox launch, Cryptovoxels, Decentralized, there's going to be ways to take your avatar and travel around different metaverses and just be that character. So that's a very exciting part. We're so early in that still. It's still very clunky to do most of it, but it's going to grow. The metaverse is here and it's starting to get exciting. So I think really the entry point for most people should be, or at least I think it is a helpful one, is just to look at these things and decide whether or not you like them, because chances are when you buy them, you're going to have to sit on them for a while because selling them is quite difficult. So pick something you like, at least. Pick something that resonates with you. Now, you may not be a great art critic, you may not have a great eye, but everybody has preferences. Everybody has aesthetics that they enjoy, that they like. And I think that's not a bad place to start. So let's take a look at some. So a really easy, quick way to kind of get a snapshot of what the art looks like on this project is to go to Rarity Tools. And you can just select the collection you want to look at and just go and take a look. And this is Hashmasks. Hashmasks, for me, hands down, the best overall collection of art anywhere in the PFP space. These things are arresting, they are challenging, beautiful, exotic. I find myself just spending hours looking through them. The problem is, it's not the greatest community in the world, and it's hard to see where they go to next, how they grow, but on an art level, I like them. And that's why I always try and make sure I have at least one in my armory, because these things could take off at any point if this idea of just really OG art takes off. They've been going on a bit of a run recently. The floor is around 0.82 ETH. So yeah. Now, Bored Ape, funny thing about Bored Ape, I don't love all of them. I think there's some real duds in there. But, I know it's crime to share, but when they're good, they're really good. And I only have one, but I specifically held on to one that really spoke to me. You can have a look at what that one is. It's this one. You might recognize him. I've had him lying around the office. This guy does it for me. Something about the cheetah, the Russian hat, the dapper tie and a combo. I like it. Cool Cats. This is one I totally missed. I looked at this artwork and I thought this is a joke. Absolute joke. It worked for some people. There is a whole story behind this, how they dropped their price to 0.02 ETH and suddenly people started buying them. Mike Tyson has one. They're different, and that's the point. We saw so many copycats of Bored Apes that suddenly when this came along, people went, oh, well, that's different. That's a breath of fresh air. Look at the floor, 0.796. They're actually dropping in price. The floor was 1 ETH at one point. 1 ETH from 0.02. That's some profit. Wicked Craniums, one of my favorite stealth, weird-ass projects. These things are just different. They're just weird, quirky. I feel like there's a place for that in this universe. Good community as well. Really interesting community, very sober community, I guess. But still, I mean, you look at these things, they're wild. I think from an art perspective, very cool. Gutter Cat Gang, no thanks. I never got on with these. I looked at them and thought, these are horrible. But look at the price. Floor price 1.369. People picked up on these. They embraced them. They loved them. They made a great community. They started doing things. Not for me, but hey, I'm not everybody. Bulls on the Block. This one was so hyped when it came out. The gas wars were through the roof. And the artist, Rui Duarte, very well known. The art it's different. It's a style, that's for sure. But the post-sale performance has not been so good. But since then, they've done a tie-up with Floyd Mayweather. They are progressing nicely. And we've had Bears on the Block, which is a different asset, which is a companion piece, which is coming through, which is nice. So I'm holding on to mine. But yeah, challenging one, this one. Then Animetas, that just recently launched. These, again, look very different. It's pixel art. They are maybe a little uniform, we can say. Maybe a little uniform. But overall, I kind of like these. And I feel like they capture something slightly different to all the other ones that we've seen. And again, I'm just looking for something which isn't trying to replicate Bored Apes. It's forging its own path. Another project which I've really liked is the Vogu. These are these weird robots, and these are gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And you look at them, and you just think, wow, that's a beautiful, beautiful thing that I want to own. The only problem with these, as I scroll through the entire collection, I get lost because they all kind of blend into one. They're not differentiated enough for me. So as much as I like them, and I do, I find myself struggling to kind of figure out where the personality, where the individuality sits in. That's not the problem you have with the Bored Apes. They are heavily differentiated amongst them. Massive differences. Another one that just came out, World of Women. I didn't get on with this one at all. I just don't like the style. It's not really for me, but they've been hugely popular, seem to be doing really, really well. And they are saying something about the world, which I can get behind. So yeah, good for them. And look, our friend Pranksy, he owns an absolute buttload of them. Oh my goodness. I didn't know that he was actually buying up a big chunk of these, but hey, there you go. And finally, one I'm checking out at the moment is Robotos. These feel like a little bit in the same category as Cool Cats. I feel like there's a different idea, a different vibe here, which could capture people's imaginations. Good thing about these ones, 0.05 ETH, reasonably cheap. So that's just a kind of overview of how I look at these things. But I mean, I could be completely wrong. I just personal preference. If I'm going to buy something, I'm going to put money into it. I'm going to own it. I kind of want to like it, but that's just me. I forgot to mention the final one, which I've been buying a lot of, which is Sup Ducks. Why did I decide to invest in Sup Ducks? Honestly, I just like them. The thing about Sup Ducks is there's some just weird stuff that they did that I thought was cool, like dick hats and poop hats, and they're just inhabiting a different space. There was a lot of projects that were doing 3D glasses and laser eyes and gold skin, but like Frankie Nines, who's the artist behind this, he didn't do that. He just decided to do his own thing, and it's funny, and it's just breeds a different atmosphere and a vibe, and it's a Sup Duck that I now use as my avatar because it's just on the money for me. So how are you going to go about evaluating a project? Well, honestly, it's quite difficult. We've looked at the art side of things, but again, you may not be that certain about the art. And with Gutter Cats, I was wrong. Maybe the art does work for some people, didn't work for me. But I didn't touch it. Could have, made some money there, but I didn't. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at Sup Ducks as a case study because I missed it to begin with. I missed the drop, and I saw some heat around it, and then I started digging in, and then it started to make sense for me. So what was it that I saw here that made me sit up and take notes? Well, firstly, it was the art. These things just didn't look like anything else that I'd seen. I looked at the collection, and I could see something fun there, something different, the idea of trying to do something different. And what I also did was I looked into the artist, because the artist, unlike some other projects, was actually named. Now with Bored Apes, the artist is unknown and the team is anonymous, but here we had Frankie Nines. So who's Frankie Nines? Well, he's an app developer, he's a graffiti artist, and he's actually quite known. His name is really Frankie Aguilar. We can check him out on Instagram. And here he is, seems a bit of a character, but you can see that he's a genuine artist. He's got lots of tattoos. He does his thing, but he's the real deal. And what's interesting is that he was actually somebody who worked at Dapper Labs. Dapper Labs, CryptoKitties. Not only that, he made an app and sold stickers of Snoop Dogg. So he's got some skin in the game. But what really sold me on him was he's also part of the Nameless team. Nameless is Jimmy McNellis's project. Frankie's a co-founder. And if you look at the projects they've done, Nyan Dog, VFriends, Avastars, these are well-known, successful NFT projects. This is Frankie. So he knows what's what. Now, that was enough to give me confidence that here was a project I could to get invested in. I would be able to spend some time getting to know and enjoying getting to know. But of course, I mean, everything's a risk. But that's why this project in particular was one that I've, over the last couple of weeks, just been slowly acquiring more of and building myself a collector position in. So I'm picking up different attributes and traits that I like because I feel that there's some real value there for me. Now, when you're looking at these projects, one of the things that you tend to hear about is the roadmap. These always make me laugh. ICOs had roadmaps as well. They didn't mean shit. These projects have roadmaps. They don't mean shit. Honestly, anytime you see a roadmap, this is what you do with it. Because that is how much it's worth. Don't look at the roadmap. Don't hold teams to account for it because everything in this space is up for grabs. Nobody knows what the right way to do things is. Roadmap, come on. So that is not a way that I would ever use to evaluate a project. I'll tell you one thing you can do though, and that is scroll down to the bottom of the page, look for the Discord icon, click it, join. If you're going to survive in the PFP space, you need to start learning how to read a lot of Discord channels very, very quickly. And trust me, it can get exhausting. I have too many, but this is my day. I spend a lot of time scrolling up and down, looking for a little red notification symbol, which will give me a chance to go and look for the thing that I'm looking for, which is a tiny piece of information, because I don't want to miss out on stuff. I want to make sure that I know exactly what's going on with each of these projects in case, for instance, I need to buy more of something. So, for instance, I have some NFTs which will give me a companion, but only divisible by 2. So if I have 8 of them, I get 4. But if I have 7 of them, I'll only get 3. So I need to buy another one in order to get 4. These are things that I need to know, and there's often a time window for these. So I spend an awful lot of time scrolling through these channels looking for information. So generally what I will do is I will join the channel, and then I will just look at the announcements channel. I generally won't look at any of the other channels early on because I just don't have time. But I will scroll through the announcements channel because that's where you'll find the best information, the most pertinent information for anything that you might want to do. And then the other thing that I will always look for is a claim your role or some kind of way to join. So how this will work normally is, let's look at the Sup Ducks one. So what you're going to want to do is just scroll to this point where it says verify. You click on that, and then you simply type !join, and this will then send you a message via Collabland. Here's a bot. You can click on that. It will open up your browser. You can connect using MetaMask, and then that will allow you to join the channel. Now I've got it all set up for Chrome. I've moved to Brave just recently, but it's really, really simple. Collabland comes from Roll, and it's just a suite of tools to allow Discord channels to connect to browsers, to MetaMask, and allow you to become verified in the channel. If you're verified, chances are new channels will open up that allow you to do other things. You might get giveaways, there might be airdrops, all sorts of different things. It's literally the first thing you should do. When you join a Discord channel, join. However you can join, just join and make sure you've done that early doors. The other thing you need to do when you join a Discord channel is, and if you want to learn more about a project, is look for the main conversation channel. In Sup Ducks, it's called Sup. In other channels, it might be called General Chat. Spend some time lurking and listening to the conversation, because you need to respect the culture that you're being dropped into. There will naturally be a hierarchy of people in the channel. So for instance, in Sup Ducks, we have Uncle Pennybags, Axikong. This is a whale. You won't know that it's a whale, but if you spend a little bit of time in the channel getting to know these people, you will start to understand that this particular human is more of a weighty soul in the space. And the reason he's there is because he wants to see this project do well, and he's very conversational. But you won't know that unless you spend a bit of time there. The last thing you want to go and do when you jump in a Discord channel is start complaining about the price, or start moaning about the floor, or start telling people you're selling, because you will probably get laughed at. So respect the culture and converse slowly, because it takes time to get to know what the particular culture of each group is. For instance, in Bored Apes, there was an obsession with the floor. Everyone was just talking about the floor rising up, rising up, rising up. That kind of behavior, we don't see it so much anymore. But in those days, Bored Apes, set as they were against Meebits, punks, as this kind of asset for the people, that was a big thing. Not so much of a big thing anymore. But you really do need to get your Discord game on lock. And then the other channels, well, you'll get to know them. One that I sit in on Sup Ducks is the Duck Sales channel, so I like to see what the prices are and what people are paying for assets, and when someone's overpaid or underpaid for something, we can laugh at them, because that's what we do. You have to remember that crypto people are full of banter. They love to chat. So the other thing to remember, to be very, very careful of in Discord, is that you don't get scammed. So what can often happen is you will get DM'd by someone who looks completely legit, and they will say something completely legit to you and say, oh, you've won a giveaway, just give us your address, or give us this or give us that. And they'll be looking to scam you. The other thing to remember is on OpenSea, that there can also be scam collections set up that look exactly like the real ones. And the best thing to do is always look in the announcements channel for the collection. Always look for a direct link from the Discord channel to the correct collection. And that's how you start to use Discord to power your information and channeling it through. So listen to conversations in the channel, use the announcements to get the correct information. And if someone DMs you that looks like that he's a moderator on the channel, go in the main chat and say, did this person DM me? Because it looks like they did, because normally they never will, unless they specifically tell you that they're going to. So that's good Discord information for you. Now let's have a look at drops. So one of the most exciting parts of PFPs and avatars is the drop day, when you can buy, or hopefully buy, one of these assets for the cheapest price you're ever going to get. Supposedly cheapest price you're ever going to get. Sometimes they drop below them in price on secondary markets. That's exciting. So here's a project, Robotos, that I've been looking at. We looked at this earlier on. They're cute, but here we go, a price of 0.05 ETH per Roboto. In the grand context of PFPs, that's quite cheap. Bored Apes were 0.08. Someone's racing outside. So I can imagine these will be quite enticing for people. They kind of look a little bit like Cool Cats. They have that same vibe. I can see this doing well. So what's going to happen is we'll go onto Discord, and we will look specifically for the Robotos Discord channel, which is down here. And then we can look in the announcements, and we can see the drop information. So here we go. The drop date is going to be Tuesday, August the 3rd. Hey, that's today. Morning time at PDT, and then they will show the exact time on the Discord on the same day. And what these guys are going to do is they're not going to announce it on social media for the first 36 minutes to allow you to get your Roboto first. You can mint 18 robots, and they will not reveal the actual asset until the sale is completed. So that brings up a few kind of interesting points here. I'm just going to pull up one of my other channels here, which is a lot of these drops sell out really fast, like mega fast, because lots of people are now looking at them as ways to flip and to earn lots of money. It wasn't like that with Bored Apes. Bored Apes didn't sell out fast. It sold out slowly. Top Dog Beach Club sold out slowly. Sometimes that happens, like with Cool Cats. they didn't sell out at all. They had to drop the price to 0.02 ETH, I believe, and then suddenly whoosh, it went. So just because something is hyped doesn't necessarily mean it's good. Sometimes you get these hype cycles around projects and they don't deliver, or they don't do as well as everyone thinks they're going to do. And that's because, with hype comes flippers, and flippers just sell out as soon as anything happens. That's just the way it goes. So it can be hard sometimes to know whether the hype is justified or not. I tend to feel like if I have a long enough time frame in mind, it doesn't really matter. But there's no doubt that if you want the best price, you go in at the mint. The only problem is gas prices. Gas prices are a pain in the butt. Gas. It is just a horrible, 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 horrible thing to have to deal with. And here's basically how it goes. There's just a massive spike. And once there's a massive spike, in order to get your transaction in ahead of everyone else's, you have to pay more gas. And this can be up to an ETH. Stoner Cats, for instance, I believe we were paying around an ETH over $2,000 to get a transaction through in time, because that thing sold out like insanely fast. There was a lot of hoo-ha about this because obviously people got wrecked by gas. So what the team decided to do then was refund people the gas, and they're figuring out a mechanism to do that. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't fun at all. So when the drop happens, what you basically want to do is have one of these loaded in. So this is a gas price Chrome extension, and this will allow you to kind of monitor where the gas prices are in real time. And this looks fairly steady at the moment, but during a heavy sale, this can go up to kind of 200, 300, 400 sometimes. That's just the way the demand works. And all that money goes to the miners. Obviously, we have the London hard fork coming up. We have EIP 1559. Maybe that all goes away, maybe it doesn't. Nobody really knows. We expect it to. And how that will influence these drops, well, it remains to be seen. But I hope it influences them in a positive way, which is we don't have to go crazy overspending to get a drop through. Now, the other thing is that sometimes drops go wrong, or there's early drops. And if you look at my account here, what you can see is I already have some Robotos. I got 4 of them, but the sale hasn't happened yet. How is that possible? Well, what happened was last night, they did a limited edition, quick sale, 900 of them, in the channel. I was asleep, I missed it, and they dropped them, and now people are able to sell them. But if you look here, they've got question marks on them, and these are unrevealed. So I tend to not like having to fight gas wars because you just don't know what's going on. So I will often buy these early ones on secondary. Same thing happened with Vogus. There was a different scenario. The contract was so overloaded that MetaMask stopped serving people on the website and people were unable to buy. So they paused the contract, and around 1,700 Vogus had been minted. And these started being sold on secondary. So I took a gamble. I bought some of these Vogus on secondary market for more than the mint price, but what I figured would be around a fair price if we factored in the gas. And it didn't work out, actually, that one. But I've done the same thing with the robots, and that's primarily because if for any reason I miss the drop, I will still have some, and I can always buy on secondary if I decide that's the way I want to go. But for now, I have them. And these are unrevealed, so you don't know which one you've got, you don't know how rare it is, and that can be a gamble. So you're basically buying a lottery ticket. You're saying, I agree to the uncertainty that this PFP, this little JPEG that I bought, could be the lowest ranked one of them all. The lowest ranked one. Could be. Now, if you're a Bored Ape and you have the lowest ranked Bored Ape, supposedly that's still worth over 8 ETH. So lowest ranked, not necessarily such a bad thing. But at these early stages, you kind of want the highest ranked for the lowest price possible. So it can be a bit of a gamble. With Sup Ducks, the ducks were bought as eggs, and they hatched over a period of 24 hours. So over time, the eggs started revealing, and then more and more information was learned about what was in these eggs. And yeah, that was a strange one. That was a strange one because there were some special ducks, some super rare ducks that were in the remaining eggs. I bought one of those eggs because I was taking a gamble on getting one of these Super Ducks. I think if we go and have a look at the Sup Ducks rarity tools, we can see that Super Duck. So these one of ones, I think there's 10 of them or something. These are the Super Ducks. These were hand-drawn special ducks that were unique and different, and they had different metadata in them. And somebody figured out how to read that metadata, and they started bidding up those eggs. And so people could see, oh yeah, that's the egg with the Super Duck in it, because the bids on it seemed to reflect that. And it was weird and wild, and that created a lot of FUD, which was, I mean, it was one of those things that happened. So sometimes drops go wrong, sometimes there are buying opportunities, sometimes you can use those moments to get an opportunity that you might not get otherwise. But it can be a tricky time. So drops are just one of those things you have to kind of negotiate. You can avoid them altogether and not pay the gas fees and start picking things up on secondary. And I think the way the market is set up at the moment, secondary is actually quite a good way to go, because often these projects in the 2 weeks following the drop will start to scooch down towards the floor price and sometimes crash through it, because people are looking for quick money and they'll take a small profit whatever way. So missing the drop isn't necessarily a bad thing. Let's be honest though, if we could go back a few months, because it is only a few months, and buy the Bored Ape mint sale, which wasn't pressured, there were no gas wars, would you? I think you would, wouldn't you? Anyway, that's it for this first part. It is long, I appreciate, but this is a deep and complicated subject. I've learned a lot. I hope you're learning a lot along the way as well. In the second part, we're going to get into how to buy, how to sell, how to negotiate OpenSea, how to look for information, how to buy at the right price, maybe, and how to use rarity tools to understand what it is you are looking for and when to make bids or just flat out buy. So that's coming up in part 2. Till the next time, see ya!